The deep, hoarse voice of the Tiger King echoed as it asked, "What did you just say?" Bawang is dead? Its eyes glowed as it stared intently at the leopard below, its expression unreadable, neither happy nor sad. The leopard, no bigger than the Tiger King's claw, respectfully replied, "Yes, it was because the Fox clan had reinforcements. The situation changed in the blink of an eye." Humph. The Tiger King placed its claw on the ground, releasing a massive surge of spiritual power. It stood up, stretching its body high, exuding an overwhelming aura. Looking out into the distance, it ordered, "Go quickly. Call Old Five back here. This time, we go together." The leopard nodded respectfully, understanding without question what the Tiger King meant by calling Old Five back. The fiery battle from yesterday hadn't affected the Fox clan village deep in the valley at all. The Fox clan built their simple thatched houses high up, and it had always been peaceful. But today, grumbling voices could be heard echoing through the air. "What are you looking at? I'll kill you right now." A round, fiery little thing sitting neatly in Thorn's palm. It looked like a cranky chili pepper, staring directly at her and cursing as if she had picked it off the tree herself. In her whole life, Thorn had never been insulted like this and didn't lash out with a single whip. Now she was staring at the rude, mocking fruit with a pale face. Blue Mantis next to her also took one, and he was scolded just the same. White Fox found it amusing and explained that this was a blood spirit fruit, which could boost vital energy and strengthen the body, so they should eat it. Thorn was thrilled to be given such a precious thing and immediately smiled, thanking her. She couldn't help but marvel at how the Fox clan could build houses and had learned quite a bit of human culture. Thorn praised them because she knew that building these houses was really difficult for a four-legged race. In the Misty Nation, even with Qing Zhao and the King Kong group helping, they only managed to build a few pitiful, crumbling mud houses that looked like ant nests. Looking at the architecture of the houses, arranged in a village-like way, Thorn admired. Though we're not on good terms with humans, their culture is worth learning from. Seeing Flash, who had already finished his blood spirit fruit before it started swearing, both Thorn and Mantis raised their hands and offered their fruit to him, inviting him to eat more. But no, just one was enough. Black Fox was surprised by Flash's cold demeanor. Previously, she realized he was coming closer, intending to speak to them. "Which way will you choose? Join Misty Mountain or die here?" The golden ant only communicated with a mental message, not speaking out loud. Black Fox firmly answered that compared to surrendering to the Five Tigers clan, joining Misty Nation was the right choice. Since Flash's group had saved them from death after their spirit flower was stolen, the Fox sisters had already made up their minds. If that's the case, Flash quickly checked the situation. Now that Bawang is dead, how strong are the remaining four Tiger Kings? Black Fox answered immediately, saying that aside from Bawang, there were four other leaders, with the most notable being the great leader Dark Tiger and the Old Five, who had transformed into human forms. Thorn was surprised and eagerly waited for more information. Transformed into a human form? What do they look like? Are they like Bull Demon, walking on two legs and holding things with their hands? Briefly explaining the situation, Black Fox mentioned that the Tiger clan outnumbered their Fox clan now, and if a full-scale war broke out, the outcome would be uncertain. Hearing that, Thorn understood and quickly responded that they would call for more help. Flash was surprised, asking who this person was who could fight alone and seemed so familiar to Thorn. Looking at her soft smile, they suddenly understood each other. She gently said, "Exactly, that one is more suited than anyone else." The one everyone knew. It had to be someone from Misty Nation. In the distant gorge, the sound of joy echoed. Big Bird had traveled a long way to notify the foolish tiger to leave immediately. His eyes sparkled with excitement as he looked at Big Bird, sticking out his tongue, giggling. "Everyone will die." Even the spider and hedgehog were in awe. "Big Brother, you're so impressive." "See, I told you the hero would step up in the end." Each of them chimed in. "See, without you, Big Brother, they wouldn't get anything done." Dumb Tiger, unable to wait any longer, spread his wings wide and soared into the sky, heading toward the Fox clan. Along the way, he stretched his face muscles to look cooler and added a final line to boost his spirits. "Everyone will die," leaving behind two little ones frantically waving, "Goodbye, Big Brother." The sight of Dumb Tiger's soaring figure in the sky was truly majestic. He was heading alone to support Flash's group, wishing him safe and happy on his journey. After flying for about a kilometer, it suddenly turned around. Turns out the big guy had forgotten the way to get there, so he had to turn back with a goofy smile on his face, still saying, "Everyone will die." This made Big Bird lose his patience and only spit out a few words. The location was to the east. That backside of his surely wouldn't be coming back now. Watching Dumb Tiger flying off on his own to reinforce Flash's group in the twilight was truly heart-wrenching. But then, a little later, he turned back, face red with embarrassment, scratching his head and asking Big Bird again, "Everyone will die?" He groaned, "I will just go with you." It was his first time being sent alone for reinforcements, and it felt so strange. The spider muttered quietly, "Is something wrong with this?" "There's definitely something wrong." Night fell quietly over the Fox clan. Not a single cricket chirped. Every house was dark, lights turned off for the night. Suddenly, footsteps that weren't invited echoed on the ground, and a wave of purple spiritual energy spread through the air. Tiger King, silent, led a few of his subordinates, eyes gleaming in the darkness, as they gently approached the village. Hunting at night was the Tiger King's specialty, and he chose this time to strike because he wanted to finish quickly. He was targeting the Fox sisters first. But suddenly, the whole group of tigers heard a loud thud above, almost as if someone wanted them to hear it on purpose. Looking up from the bright yellow foot, it was clear that besides the reinforcements from Misty Nation, the Fox clan had been quietly waiting here for a while. Behind them, eyes gleamed, ready to fight the leader if necessary. Flash, representing the group, spoke up, asking if the figure ahead was Dark Tiger. He wasn't shy about being caught eavesdropping on the village and retorted, "Are you the supporters of the Fox clan?" White Fox leaned close to Thorn, whispering, "Look at the 3 tigers with Dark Tiger." She only wanted her to look quietly, as she had warned before. The first was the second leader, Blood Tiger. You could tell by the strong blood scent emitting from his body, his nature cruel and bloodthirsty, normalizing hunting and killing. The second, muscular without stripes, was the third leader, called Mao Wang. It looked like he blended into the shadows behind him, but his eyes were those of a seasoned warrior. And the last, the most terrifying, was the 5th king, named Nameless, who had really transformed into a human form, like the second brother of the multi-species company. Not to mention, behind these 4 tigers, a group of lower-level tigers had already taken up battle stances. Seeing the overall situation, White Tiger whispered, "If it weren't for Fox Clan's good intelligence work, keeping us updated continuously, we wouldn't have known about these guys' existence. So we must be careful. We don't know his real strength." If everyone knew there was going to be a battle, Dark Tiger didn't hide it, roaring, "No wonder Ba Wang was killed by you, and now you're bringing reinforcements. But don't think you'll escape death." He screamed and unleashed his tiger roar skill, a terrifying sound wave that stirred the air, aiming to kill the group in the trees. But what Dark Tiger didn't expect was that in the reinforcements of Misty Mountain, Zhou also had a similar sonic skill. He opened his mouth and used it immediately. 2 waves of spiritual energy collided, neither yielding, with a deafening explosion. It could be considered the opening of the battle. Dark Tiger roared, "Kill all these foxes for me." Behind him, his tigers roared in support, showing their might. Black Fox wasn't scared. Although they had suffered some casualties, anyone who threatened their Green Mound territory would not be spared. Black Fox bellowed, "We absolutely will not allow the Tiger Clan to slaughter at will." The close combat battle had begun, just like yesterday when they clashed head-on to see whose fangs were sharper and whose claws more dangerous. Though it was clear from the start that the Fox Clan didn't have the advantage in direct combat, they had the support of the Misty Mountain, which gave them a huge edge. Blue Mantis alone could handle 2 big tigers at once, cutting through decisively and quickly, and with a single strike, the 2 tigers had their bellies slashed open. Mao Wang targeted its head first, charging at Mantis, fully aware of its superior abilities over the subordinates, and couldn't let him live and cause trouble. But unexpectedly, the attack from behind had no effect. After taking a blow from the familiar red vine, Mao Wang had to slow down and see what it was. Thorn was furious. The vine wrapped around her threateningly, and with just a glance, it was clear she was shouting inside, "Try one more step toward my comrades." The third king, Mao Wang of the Tiger Clan, silently evaluated the human-like girl in front of him. Like always, Flash charged in alone as usual, strengthening his attack to double the power of his strike. First, he wanted to see if doubling the force would actually injure the opponent, since his adversary was considered the strongest and most unpredictable. The third king, Nameless, ferociously lunged at him with claws glowing red. The moment it clashed with Flash's punch, the ground and stones trembled violently, as if a flood was rushing through, signaling the beginning of a fierce battle where one would live and the other would die. The second king of the Tiger Clan, Blood Tiger, stood vigilantly facing the Black and White Fox sisters, who were strategically trying to find any openings. He growled, "Blood, I need more blood. It wasn't clear whether he was here to claim territory or to satisfy his bloodlust. One thing was for sure, this battle wouldn't be easy, and it would only stop when one side shed all its blood. Kaizhou, already knowing from the start that he was up against Dark Tiger, lunged forward, knowing that he had no room for interference from anyone else. Dark Tiger roared in anger. You dodged my roar, but you think you can take me on? His eyes turned bloodshot, and he gathered his spiritual power, increasing it from 10,000 to 30,000 to 50,000. It was unclear what move Dark Tiger would make next. Kaizhou seized the initiative by opening his mouth wide and unleashing a massive burst of fire. The flames shot out like an endless hose, creating towering columns of fire that crashed against the rocky shore, and in an instant, the forest around them vanished in the blaze. Dark Tiger leaped into the air just before becoming charred, escaping the vast sea of flames with such ease, proving his incredible skill. He turned to Kaizhou and unleashed a secret technique, a wave of energy that seemed to mix both air and water into a column of white foam, trying to extinguish the fire wielder, Kaizhou. However, the tiger's speed was too quick. Kaizhou didn't even have time to dodge before the sound wave hit him. The explosion was deafening, and the flames were immediately doused. Dark Tiger roared triumphantly, standing strong like a ruler of his domain. I'm nearing the power of the mainland's 10 great beasts. Don't joke with me. He was right. As a peak-level supernatural rank 2, his power far surpassed that of many employees in the multi-species company. It was easy to understand why his claws could easily reach the neck of Kaizhou. Kaizhou let out a painful roar, feeling the claws dig into his flesh. He had only just entered rank 2, still in its early stages. Taking advantage of his size, Kaizhou bit the tiger's neck, intending to use his sharp teeth to kill Dark Tiger if he could land the blow. But the deep purple fur of the tiger wasn't just for show. The purple hue seemed to transfer to Kaizhou's teeth, infecting his gums and causing pain. He had to release the tiger, letting out a soul-piercing roar as the pain spread from his mouth to his throat. Dark Tiger laughed in satisfaction. I am the essence of darkness. I'll slowly corrode your body. It was no wonder he was the leader in this area, even though he was only rank 2. His invulnerable fur made it difficult for opponents to engage him in close combat. Blue Mantis, though busy with his own battle, quickly noticed that Kaizhou wasn't doing well. It was obvious that the dinosaur couldn't defeat the tiger. Sure enough, Dark Tiger played the same trick on Kaizhou, sinking his sharp teeth into the dinosaur's neck, lifting it off the ground and twisting it with immense strength. Kaizhou's massive weight caused the ground to crack loudly as the tiger managed to toss him a long distance away. Kaizhou, like a blue bowling ball, knocked over several large trees, rolling several times before stopping, his back slamming into something and spitting out a mouthful of dark red blood. The surrounding forest was devastated by the impact, sending white smoke swirling in the air. The area where Kaizhou and Dark Tiger were standing seemed to have turned into a private battleground. Kaizhou trembled, trying to stand up on his large legs, but it was difficult. The infection had spread all the way to his chest, and the blow he had taken made his body sway, almost losing balance. Blue Mantis purposely broke away from his own battle, feeling that if he didn't intervene soon, Kaizhou might be heading to the heavens right then and there. Dark Tiger laughed even more ferociously, his mouth holding a thick purple smoke filled with murderous intent. He declared, "You'll be the first to fall." He was ready to charge forward and finish off Kaizhou, and he was met with a fierce roar from the dinosaur in return. Despite his mouth being covered in infection and facing death, Kaizhou would never stop. Even if he were to die in this land of Green Mound, he would fight with all his might and scratch at the tiger's body. "I'll make sure you get what you wish for," he roared in defiance. Dark Tiger released a powerful surge of his constantly buffed spiritual energy toward Kaizhou, like a tornado relentlessly swirling at the dinosaur. Blue Mantis was terrified, but he couldn't fly over to help because he was still being held back by Mao Wang. He guessed that the previous strike might have taken Kaizhou's life, and he roared in pain, feeling utterly helpless. But the expression on Dark Tiger's face seemed strange. Through the mist it had created, his red eyes stared intently ahead, checking if his opponent had already passed. In the distance, could that be feathers? A layer of white feathers stacked together like the wings of a giant bird. The upper part was streaked with alternating black and white fur, clearly not Kaizhou's. This was White Tiger. White Tiger had arrived just in time to save his kin, eyeing Dark Tiger with caution. No more foolish questions about Dumb Tiger or random chit-chat in Misty Nation. White Tiger was here to ensure no one would harm his family. Just as Flash was about to strike Dark Tiger, he couldn't help but cheer. Seeing White Tiger join the fight, he shouted, "Ah, dumb tiger!" Their reinforcements had arrived, and the entire group felt reinvigorated. Thorn, upon seeing White Tiger, flashed a radiant smile, calling out, "Little White!" The reinforcements that Thorn had been waiting for had finally arrived, and from now on, the situation was about to turn around. But first, let's see what Dark Tiger would do. Seeing a tiger like himself on the enemy's side, he couldn't help but sneer. His face twisted into a mocking smile, but his whole body radiated murderous intent. Battling a big dinosaur was fun, but what could be more exciting than two tigers of equal size clashing in an earth-shaking battle? And one of them was a white tiger with wings. This one was definitely no ordinary tiger, at least stronger than the other one. Turning his back to Kuizhou, White Tiger addressed him with a single ominous sentence: "Everyone will die." The language of White Tiger was unusual. Though it was just one sentence, it carried many meanings, and Kuizhou couldn't comprehend it. Confused, he wondered why White Tiger had come to save him only to predict the death of everyone. He bared his teeth and growled loudly in Dark Tiger's face. "Everyone will die." It was the clearest declaration of war given the current situation. He wanted the one who had attacked Kuizhou to die. Without another word, White Tiger spread his wings and shot straight toward Dark Tiger, who remained rooted to the spot, testing the courage of the newcomer, eager to see what kind of abilities this White Tiger possessed. Using the most direct and pure method, White Tiger charged headfirst into Dark Tiger with a thunderous crash. The two tigers collided like bulls, growling as they saw their own shadows reflected in each other's eyes, refusing to give an inch. Just as the battle reached its peak, something shot through the narrow gap between their foreheads at an unbelievably fast speed. Seizing the moment, White Tiger swung its wings, which had transformed into sharp saw blades, slicing across Dark Tiger's neck and injuring him. Dark Tiger roared in pain, sent flying a great distance into the forest, his body spinning uncontrollably on the ground, knocking over trees in his wake. The blow wasn't fatal, but it was incredibly powerful. Dark Tiger slowly got up, gasping for air, shocked that he had been pushed into such a corner. Blood was dripping from his chest, but he didn't pay any attention to it, growling angrily, "Damn it, I didn't expect to be hurt like this." But who was he trying to intimidate? He couldn't see White Tiger anywhere in front of him, only fallen trees in the thick smoke. He couldn't even see White Tiger's faint outline. Had it fled, White Tiger didn't hide. That was not its way. When Dark Tiger realized the light above him was brighter, he saw Dumb Tiger had arrived very close, radiating an overwhelming burst of energy. Dumb Tiger condensed his spiritual energy into a powerful column and fired it directly where Dark Tiger had been standing. The entire area seemed to be struck by lightning, sending waves of energy that scorched the ground and destroyed all the trees above it. The force of the attack radiated outward, and even the foxes far away had to dig their claws into the ground to avoid being blown away. They looked at the pillar of energy that hadn't stopped for several minutes and couldn't help but admire White Tiger's overwhelming power. After creating a massive crater where Dark Tiger had stood, White Tiger stopped, standing on the edge, watching intently. The smoke was thick, but the crater was dark and bottomless, and White Tiger remained vigilant, not giving any opportunity for the enemy to counterattack. Suddenly, a figure shot up from below, black and purple, startling White Tiger. As the figure fully revealed itself, it roared in anger, spitting blood, but its ferocity remained unchanged. Dark Tiger had used his special ability, Shadow Tiger, to create an identical shadow. This shadow possessed 70% of Dark Tiger's combat strength. No wonder he was so arrogant, fearless of death. He charged at White Tiger, growling, "If you want to fight me, let's see how much you can endure. Let's hit, let's strike," was the motto of the multi-species company, and Dumb Tiger had wanted to say it, but all that came out of his mouth was the same ominous line, "Everyone will die." It sounded intimidating, but it was the same thing he'd been saying all along, though his presence made it seem like a genuine threat. Dark Tiger responded, "It seems you understand yourself well," but what Dark Tiger wanted was for everyone on the other side to die. Not far away, the ground and sky were in turmoil as well, in the battlefield between Flash and Nameless. The tiger, whose strength was hard to predict, had been knocked into a cliff, causing everything behind it to collapse. Its eyes were vacant, and blood was splattered everywhere. It seemed like it had just gone through a brutal battle. His mouth never seemed to close. Even after getting beaten so badly, he still cursed, "You damn stinky ant, I'll tear you apart." Each of Nameless's roars made him spit blood non-stop, forcing him to crouch down and gasp for air. Flash flew up above with its front pincers drenched in blood. Every time it swung, blood would fly up in the air, easily recognizable as not its own. Look at that tiger. Flash had to admit it was strong. But too bad, I'm still stronger. Just then, he doubled its strength, and now he'll triple it. A strike 3 times faster, and 3 times the damage kept cutting into the strange beast. It opened its mouth but couldn't make a sound, just blood spurting out uncontrollably. No one knew if Nameless would get the title he deserved, or if he'd just vanish forever in the endless history of strange beasts on the continent. The sisters of the Fox clan had just fought not even a full day ago. Their wounds had barely closed up after using all sorts of rare and exotic remedies, and now they were splitting open again, old scars layering over new ones, shallow and deep interlaced. But their fighting spirit was incredible, showing no sign of worry, since the toughest foe, the second Tiger King, lay flat on the ground, unable to even lift his eyes. Both of them agreed that if it hadn't been for that combined twin-blade maneuver, fighting him one-on-one would have been impossible. Mao Wang, who had looked so fierce moments earlier, was now held tight in a mass of vines, shrinking down and screeching like a cat. Meow, meow, meow. Let me go, you wicked woman. But Thorn didn't feel threatened at all. In fact, it looked so cute that she asked, "Do you want to be my pet cat? I'll even use these vines to scoop your poop." It turned out that this mighty third Tiger King was just a little black cat in disguise. Meanwhile, Blue Mantis sat cross-legged like a feudal lord atop the pile of defeated tigers, amid swirling dust, savoring the total victory he had just achieved. Now, all that was left was to wait for White Tiger to finish up on his end, then they could head home and get some sleep. Across the way, the roars of an intense fight with the first Tiger King still rang out where White Tiger was. Tiger-shaped shadows and the tiger's true body gathered their spiritual energy, merging those two noisy mouths into a solid black mass up ahead, preparing to unleash their special twin tiger bomb. This strange weapon soared through the sky, even taking aim at White Tiger, who spread wide his wings and rushed straight at it with exact precision. Its size swelled like a small asteroid hurtling down toward Earth, blotting out the night sky over Green Mound. Seeing this, Dark Tiger felt confident he could kill that half-black, half-white tiger, and roared out, "Die, you bastard!" Who could have guessed that aside from some sooty patches on his fur, White Tiger emerged from the smoke as mighty as ever, roaring back as if to say, "I'm the reinforcements, not some burden. Got it?" Dark Tiger started to lose hope, eyes wide and unbelieving that his strongest attack only managed to dirty his opponent's fur. Fighting like this, where the enemy neither dies nor is wounded, but only needs a quick bath afterward, wasn't that humiliating? White Tiger's deep, gravelly voice sounded from across the way, repeating its familiar line, "Everyone will die." But now the atmosphere felt totally different. To Dark Tiger, that sounded more like a prophecy of doom coming for his own side. He didn't pay for a fortune-telling session, but White Tiger wasn't about to let the audience down. It spread its white wings with a flapping sound, adding a bit of showy flair. Witnessing White Tiger's fierce momentum and a new technique forming into a giant claw, Dark Tiger fully understood the true meaning behind that repeated roar. Everyone will die didn't mean them. It meant whoever dared oppose them. Was it too late now? This guy had seen right through their strength from the start. Not only was he powerful, he was also extremely smart. If he knew this White Tiger was called Dumb Tiger in the Misty Mountain, would he laugh? Dark Tiger's eyes could only open wide in shock. After all that effort and fighting, it had come down to utter helplessness and one final confirmation that it had no chance. The Tiger King gave up resisting and accepted that it would be bitten right at the weak spot by its opponent, letting out a howl of pain as blood sprayed everywhere. White Tiger clamped down hard on its foe and slammed into the ground with a thunderous crash, once again stirring up waves of earth in all directions. Dirt, rocks, and grass flew in a frenzy. After the dust settled, Dark Tiger was half buried, 4 legs and its belly sunken into the uneven ground, truly powerless. From its point of view, White Tiger was like a hidden ruler, stronger all along, who only needed to appear once to stomp on its head and rise above it. That majestic bearing wasn't built in a day or two. Dark Tiger just lay there wheezing, waiting for those jaws to come in for the killing bite, when suddenly someone yelled, "Wait!" urgently from behind, causing White Tiger to retract his fangs. It wasn't an ally calling out, it was the enemy. Dark Tiger's eyes widened as he saw the other tigers, tied up tight, roaring in protest, demanding that the big boss not be killed. Another one next to it roared at the middle one in surprise. "Hey, old five, you can speak? Just hearing about walking on 2 legs was surprising enough, And now fifth Tiger King could talk too? Stupid Tiger couldn't talk, couldn't negotiate, so it had to let its teacher handle the talking. If it yelled, "Everyone will die at this point," they'd all just stare blankly. Thorn made a quick decision, turning around and telling them, "If you want, we can spare Dark Tiger." Fifth Tiger King, ignoring every other issue, opened its mouth wide and agreed immediately. As long as they didn't harm their eldest brother, they were willing to accept any condition. The others chimed in too, all determined to keep the first Tiger King alive. Just as they were about to start negotiating, Dark Tiger, who had given up a moment ago, now trembled and struggled to stand upright on the jagged ground. Its voice shook like its legs. I haven't lost yet." Panting heavily, blood still pouring out, it stubbornly declared it wouldn't let these guys go anywhere. Probably thinking its big brother had lost too much blood and was talking nonsense, Fifth Tiger King roared right in his face. "Big bro, that's enough already. We can't beat them." Some were tied up, some dead, some badly wounded. Now that the beasts of Misty Mountain were gracious enough to spare their lives, that was a blessing. But what about the dignity of a king who ruled over this land? Dark Tiger's eyes seemed to question White Tiger. Why was he willing to follow someone else's lead? In the tense moment, Stupid Tiger said nothing, only glaring at Dark Tiger, making sure it understood the mean of his choices. 2 days later, White Tiger folded its wings close to its plump sides, holding a glowing spiritual herb in its mouth that formed a perfect round sphere of light. The tigers following behind looked fierce and threatening, completely different from its own cheerful mood. Without these guys around, it probably would have been humming a little tune. Standing in front of the Fox clan's village, waiting for a while now, were the imposing black-white fox and the silent thorn. Golden Ant and Blue Mantis flew in close, asking with concern if Stupid Tiger really intended to leave. The white fox glanced at her sister, whispering, "We're just going to let the clan's treasure be taken outside like this?" The black fox had made up her mind. Even if they kept it in Greenmound, they couldn't protect it. Better to follow the conditions for joining Mystery Great Mountain. That way, they could keep on crystallizing and remain more stable in the future. Thorn happily observed the situation. This time, having subdued the 5-tiger clan of the 3 Tiger Kings, plus dozens of extraordinary rank 1 mutant tigers of the same clan, her dear little white tiger had finally blossomed, proving its true strength. From now on, Misty Mountain would have its own clan members, truly killing 2 birds with 1 stone. Whether Stupid Tiger realized this or not, Thorn was thrilled for it. Dark Tiger didn't join in the day's events. It wandered alone through the forest, not showing whether it was happy or sad, just trudging back toward its own lair. Earlier, Thorn had called it over to explain White Tiger's intentions, causing Dark Tiger to roar in disbelief. "What did you just say? Let me go?" Stupid Tiger stood behind her, nodding along. "Everyone will die," which, shortened, meant exactly. Little White said that in 3 months it would wait for you at Misty Mountain. If you could defeat it, it would immediately return your clansmen. If you lost, you'd have to join Misty Mountain yourself. That's why Dark Tiger left, heading back alone to its cave to train. It growled that next time, it absolutely wouldn't lose to that weird white-furred tiger with wings, and it sure as hell wouldn't submit as a servant in that Misty Mountain. In the days that followed, life at Misty Mountain was generally peaceful. While Thorn and her motley band of colorful mutant beasts kept traveling at her side, battling to expand their influence, Yuziyu quietly trained, preparing to advance to rank 4. He knew he had to make the most of these rare, quiet moments, without the noisy rabble of those young beasts disturbing the mountain range. On the other side, in Magic City, one of the Federation's most developed cities, and also one of its most important, everything was built up close against a sturdy embankment separating the human-inhabited zone from the vast ocean. A car carrying a young woman with striking blue hair who was resting during the swift ride. Lin Zi was one of the top extraordinary beings on the Federation's 10 legendary masters list. Passing by the coastline, she happened to witness a massive wave suddenly rising straight up, poised to crash right down in her direction. The car didn't slow, but the passenger couldn't help being alarmed. Lindsay also sensed something off, wondering what was up with the waves today. This wave wasn't caused by the wind, as it rose so high without making a sound. If she hadn't seen it with her own eyes, she'd never believed that right next to the city stood such an enormous, upright wave. Glancing over at the brown-haired person beside her, Lindsay spoke softly. "Teacher, there seems to be something going on out there at sea. I'll go take a look and come right back." Once given permission, she raised her hand, gathered her spiritual energy, and extended her senses from her consciousness out into the world. At first, she could just grasp the vibrations of nearby objects and people, but gradually her perception stretched hundreds of meters outward. The teacher held her breath, watching every move, never having seen Lindsay act so hastily. She could only hope nothing bad was happening. It took a few minutes for Lindsay's consciousness to gather into a spiritual form, appearing in the sky above the distant sea, slowly opening her eyes. She saw nothing but a clear blue sky, yet she could hear the sloshing of waves on rocks. Strange. Where did these breaking waves come from out here in open water? Just as Lindsay looked around, an enormous mutant beast covered in spiky quills and a mouthful of fangs appeared, heading straight for the shore without noticing her soul's presence. It was so huge it blocked out the morning light. Its white fur hung down without a drop of seawater on it, startling her senseless. She'd never seen such a beast before, nor had she ever seen marine creatures of so many different species advancing together in such orderly fashion. To the left and right of this giant beast were all kinds of creatures: snails, shrimp, crabs, jellyfish. Her face went pale. She realized that while the big dark one was the largest, those around it were hardly small. Even one of these monsters landing ashore could wipe out a city block in Magic City. As if to prove her fears, the colossal creature lowered its head and aimed the sharp quills atop it straight toward the city's shore, firing one off like a missile. No pilot needed. Just guided by spiritual energy along a set trajectory, it launched from the monster's crown at terrifying speed, targeting the city center of Magic City beyond a low mountain range. The impact shook everything so violently that even Lindsay's soul, standing hundreds of meters away, screamed out loud. The aftershocks stirred the layered ocean waves. Terrified, Lindsay clenched her hands around herself, gritting her teeth in disbelief at the horrific power. She didn't know that a pair of blood-red eyes had crept up right beside her, staring as if locking onto its prey. Roar! The maw full of jagged teeth opened so wide you couldn't see the bottom. Facing Lindsay's soul, the mutant beast roared mightily, whipping the surrounding wind into chaos and rattling the atmosphere. Even though she was only a conscious spirit form that couldn't be physically chewed up, she still turned pale with fear. What was this thing, radiating such terrifying power? Lindsay signed out of the coastal area she'd been scouting with her spiritual energy and returned to her physical body in the speeding car. She'd never snapped back so fast before. Her whole body trembled, sweat pouring off her like rain. She couldn't even speak to the person next to her. The look of terror still etched on her face. The teacher had no clue what was happening out there. Gone was Lindsay's calm demeanor from moments ago. She bowed her head against her hand, grabbing her greenish-blue hair and muttering, Go, get out of this city now. If we don't go, it'll be too late." She looked almost hysterical, mumbling in fear over and over. The area where that monster's horn had landed was a bustling district packed with skyscrapers. Now the place flashed red emergency lights nonstop. The horn lay in the middle of the wide street, half as tall as a 40-story building. All unrelated persons had been evacuated, causing severe traffic jams at the exits out of the city. Cars were lined up in multiple lanes, unable to move. Loudspeakers repeated warnings over and over, only increasing the crowd's panic. At this point, the coastal city showed signs of a gigantic-scale invasion by marine mutants. The highest-level red alert had everyone on edge, pushing and shoving in panic. Inside the Spiritual Energy Monitoring Center, chaos reigned. The staff member calling out was forced to repeat one critical piece of information. Among the mutant beasts emerging from the sea, there was a rank 3 extraordinary creature whose spiritual power had exceeded 4 million. Everyone focused on the screens flashing red. One employee turned and shouted to a superior positioned higher up, "Boss, this is bad." The superior's face was hardly any calmer than her subordinates, but she had to shout back, "Speak clearly and get to the point." If the leader panicked, the whole operation would collapse. News from outside poured in. It wasn't just Magic City by the seaside under attack from these marine mutants. They were swarming ashore everywhere, bringing in seawater to flood streets and buildings, baring their fangs to hunt down any survivors for a hearty feast. Across the 10-nation alliance, any place touched by the ocean was that day greeted by towering waves like tsunamis, blocking out the light and crashing down, carrying a vast horde of mutant beasts onto land. In Luo Nation, tall buildings lining the coastal road faced the same fate, forced to yield territory to these mutant beasts as if it were theirs now. Right now, in coastal countries all over the world, if you're not seeing fish wandering on the road, jellyfish busting hip-hop moves, or turtles sticking their heads out, then you're going to run into giant squids slithering all over, like they're throwing down a challenge to all those talent chefs out there. The places unfortunate enough to encounter this fierce and unruly crab were left without a single living soul. It wreaked havoc, turning the entire area into rubble. The simple homes were buried, along with anyone hiding inside, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. Officials, their faces ashen, reported to their superiors that the sea now seemed intent on waging war against the land to claim sovereignty. Though everything was still just speculation, everyone knew this was the most plausible explanation at the moment. In the freezing Bayou region, where spring was just around the corner, frost blanketed the mountains and hills, yet the vibrant green of the foliage persisted everywhere. Orca emerged from the water and relayed the tense situation at sea, warning that the creatures likely wouldn't attack this area due to the lack of human presence. However, the coastal regions would undoubtedly feel the impact, perhaps even reaching here. It urged Qingzhao to return to Misty Great Mountain immediately, explaining that the sea beasts' invasion was instigated by those self-proclaimed kings deep in the vast ocean who had collectively launched this action. It hissed out a statement that was both laughable and alarming. All the sea beasts had been summoned to join the battle, and even I have been called up. Qingzhao, grasping the urgency of the situation, agreed quickly, assuring Orca they would leave at once. Before departing, Qingzhao reminded Orca to be careful. Riding atop a polar bear, Qingzhao shot out of the area, hearing Orca call out behind them. "Don't worry about me. I'm a fish in water. This is my specialty." Australia, surrounded by the ocean, was naturally among the first to face the wave of sea beasts. The continent's top kangaroo, leading a pack of ferocious and formidable mutant beasts, stood ready to meet the challenge head-on. Above them, flocks of birds scattered in panic. In Kangaroo's eyes, it was the rare moment before a life-and-death battle, and its gaze grew strangely determined. Whether the Australian continent remained intact or not would all depend on their strength. The transcendent Rank 3 beast that the Spirit Power Center had warned about had now stepped onto Australian soil. The one in the middle had silvery gray scales and fur, known as the King of the Seven Seas, the Flood Dragon King, a peak Rank 3 transcendent, lifting its proud head as it strode forward, flanked by two underlings also at Rank 3. On its left was Vermilion, a beast with thick, reddish-brown skin tough as armor. On its right was Azure, older and more sinister, a sea serpent that looked downright eerie. Under the gloomy sky, the Flood Dragon King announced loudly its name as one of the 7 kings of the deep sea, telling them not to bother resisting and to hand over the land to it. Kangaroo flat out refused. It had always felt uneasy about the deep sea, but never imagined these ocean dwellers would one day dare to crazily invade the continent. Sea creatures could live on land, but what would happen to those who belonged here once their territory was snatched away? Kangaroo's eyes flashed dangerously as it growled through clenched teeth. "You'll regret this, you reptiles from the deep sea." That statement marked the declaration of war. Elsewhere, deep inside the continent, where mist and thin clouds still blanketed towering skyscrapers in peace, far from the coastline, no invasion alarms had sounded yet. Inside a research facility, 2 men craned their necks, watching something glow softly, trying to guess if it could communicate with humans by now. The massive, strange beast towering there, bristling with tubes and wires, looked like a motionless statue. Despite all the scientists' efforts, there was still no sign it could respond. The bald old man stared anxiously at the specimen. The oceanic beasts were invading, and in just half a day, coastal cities had fallen. This was their only hope against the sea monsters. He knew his ability to talk to strange beasts. If they could control this beast, they might be saved. A sudden roar right in front of them made him jump, hardly believing his ears. It was as if the creature answered him. It fell silent for a few seconds, then transmitted its thoughts via spirit energy. Though broken and halting, the main idea was clear. "It's no use. I cannot. Defeating them is very hard. Humanity is destined, cannot escape doom." It spoke. Both men's eyes bulged in shock. The long-awaited moment had come, but what a baffling message. The old scientist repeated the beast's words, mumbling about humanity, fate, and doom. How could that be? They'd gone to such lengths to secure a future for humankind. How could it say there's no chance at all? True, the ocean beast's numbers and spirit energy were incredibly strong, but not to the point of being unbeatable. "You're a creature we've studied and engineered," the old man said firmly. "Your bones are woven from metal fibers. Your cells are linked with electronic coils, generating powerful electromagnetic fields. Your body structure long surpassed humanity's understanding. If you can help us drive these sea monsters away." With that, He took out a giant dragon egg, shimmering faintly in purple hues. He offered it to the beast, promising it could fill what it lacked and make it stronger. But he warned they were giving it their very best, so once the monsters were driven off, it must not destroy this nation. Now choose. The beast's eyes locked onto that dragon egg as though drawn to its glow. It had made its choice, and now it was time to act on it. At Luo Nation, the battle had begun. Waves taller than dozens of meters slammed into coastal high-rises. Among the towering columns of water that swallowed entire blocks, the ocean beasts rampaged about, spewing spirit energy everywhere. They weren't even bothering to find food. They just kept unleashing waves of power, raising the land in a frantic hurry as if to finish fast and go back to sleep. Each blow hit wide areas, and after one strike, they gathered spirit energy for another. Even the venerable old turtle, once respected, now turned into a destructive brute. This city wouldn't last even half a day. In Blossom Federation, with its denser population, hordes of giant aquatic creatures attacked all at once. Fish so monstrous they looked like demons hopped right onto dry land, bouncing past buildings and charging into the city, roaring at the top of their lungs, as if demanding, "Hey, who's got the tastiest fish dish around here?" In another corner, an anglerfish without braces emerged from the dark depths, swinging its glowing lure as if it came to install new city lights. Problem was, its jagged teeth occasionally chomped half a building away. Every super being available was summoned. Anyone on leave or retired had to show up to fight these sea monsters. In terms of numbers, humanity might not be outmatched, but size-wise, they were clearly at a disadvantage. Still, they had no choice but to charge forth and block the beast's advance. Overwhelmed by colossal foes, each human fighter had to handle one creature alone, no one able to aid another. They realized these creatures were endless, like ants. They battled fiercely, swearing silently at how stubborn these beasts were. By midday in Inferno City, the place was flooded. The world looked gloomy and eerily silent. The once bustling city was now cloaked in thick mist, impossible to see far. The inside had become a playground for ocean beasts blowing bubbles as if this was their newly claimed funfair. A few super beings perched in half-submerged buildings cursed at this bizarre fog spread. The clusters of mist were growing thicker by the minute, even though it was midday. "No, that's not fog spread," someone answered wearily. "It's just water and air mixing to form vapor." The rising water temperature was causing evaporation. They stood only 4 floors above the water's surface. Down below, the ocean beasts drifted around, totally at ease, and the humans dared not make a move. Atop a building nearly submerged, a huge column of golden spirit light descended, illuminating the surrounding water. Within that glowing pillar stood none other than Shaoling. Her spectacular arrival didn't escape the monster's notice. 2 immediately leapt atop the building's roof to see what was shining so brightly. They locked eyes on her, pegging her as a noisy prey that needed extermination. But the fearsome aura around Shaoling was too intense. They hesitated, especially with those raging flames around her that could torch their big mouths with ease. Shaoling had reached Transcendent Rank 3, equal to the Dragon King's 2 minions, making these small fry before her no more than pathetic weaklings. Up in the Celestial Mountains, true to their name, sharp peaks jabbed straight into a sky filled with clouds. Under the filtered sunlight, they stood tall and solitary. The upper slopes showed off a grayish limestone landscape, yet near the summit, a lush forest spread out. In the quiet sea of clouds, a fearsome bellow of the white elephant echoed for miles. This white-gray, cream-tinged elephant was struggling to steady its breath. It saw the world being wrecked and knew it must appear to bring calm, but the sight of all creatures suffering drove it nearly mad with anger. Over in the second continent, Africa, known for harsh sunlight and prayers for rain, it didn't need to pray today. Towering ocean waves dozens of meters high surged into the deserts. Above the panicked savanna animals, hideous, oversized sea beasts bared their fangs. Zebras or any horse-like creatures couldn't outrun these predators surfing the waves. Things were dire. There might not be any normal animals left after this. Deep inside the continent, in narrow canyons where dark-skinned clans lived, they were holding a raucous village ceremony. Drums, chanting, and a painted antelope mask worn by a shaman dancing out front. The shaman let out deep, guttural cries, performing a ritual before someone seated on a high stone chair. That person looked human, dressed simply, while the chair was carved out of rock, pressed under something like a giant 5-toed human foot. That person's eyes glowed like light bulbs. Suddenly, seawater flooded into the canyon, causing panic and screams. Looking up for an escape, the clansmen saw a colossal monster blocking their way, staring down rudely at them. This rank 3 peak-level twin king beast, a giant crustacean-like creature with 3 pairs of legs sprouting from its chest, bore massive claws above. Amid the chaos, the leader's eyes fixed only on this beast, calm and without any emotion. Misty Mountain, shrouded in endless mist deep inland, was as quiet and still as always. Yet today, for some reason, the sun's rays broke through the gray clouds, warming the land and the willow tree that had been silently upgrading for days. After a while, Yu opened his eyes. He took a slow, careful look around. He was still the same, a willow with pinkish leaves and trailing vines swaying gracefully in the breeze. Nine Tails, who'd been bowing beneath the big boss's tree for a long time, approached as soon as it saw him awake. "Master, at last you're awake. How was your breakthrough?" A breakthrough couldn't possibly be this quiet. Normally, whenever Yu leveled up, the spiritual energy light would shine across the land, summoning all kinds of creatures to appear. He coiled up one of his vines and stared at it, replying gently, "Not done yet. There's still one more step." Yu hadn't expected this evolution would be so costly. Right at this point, he still needed another 10 million evolution points to complete the final stage. He noticed something off. The outside world's spiritual energy kept surging violently, wave after wave, so intense the willow could feel it all too clearly. He'd been cultivating in isolation for nearly 2 months and had no idea what was going on out there. Surprised, he asked Nine Tails, "What's happening outside? Why do I sense so many powerful forces?" That was exactly why the eldest sister had been crouched beside the willow, keeping watch day and night. She quickly explained the big trouble going on, and how they couldn't be sure how soon those monsters might find their way into this ravine. Humph! Yu lowered his gaze in thought. So the king of the 7 seas had arrived? At long last, the massive sea monsters from the deep had come to attack the land. He just hadn't imagined they'd be so huge and destructive. He thought about the points he could earn by wiping them all out. Given their strength, the evolution points would surely be plentiful, but doing that would mean getting involved in humanity's affairs. Yu had to think carefully. This might make his powerful image even stronger in the eyes of humans, creating a good opportunity to accomplish some necessary things. He called out to Nine Tails right away, "Take a few of our folks from Misty Mountain. While these sea monsters are causing chaos everywhere, head out and subdue a few of them. Pick the strong ones, so we can prepare for Misty Mountain's expansion soon." This wasn't the best time for isolated training either. Yu opened his eyes wide and instructed the eldest sister, "I'm going out too. I want to meet these creatures from the depths." In a single day, Magic City, once a bustling coastal city, had turned into a giant aquarium. Water submerged everything, even above the tops of high rises. Sunlight struggled to pierce through, only faintly illuminating the surface, where fish swam about as if this were the open sea. Wherever they swam, they roared. Wherever they roared, they terrorized. These fish, with their mottled and menacing bodies from the deep, went berserk at the sight of any foe, howling fiercely. Their razor-sharp teeth repeatedly snapped at Lin Zi, who twisted and turned to dodge their attacks. After barely escaping the jaws of 4 or 5 of them at once, she backed off to create space, raised her hand, and unleashed a spatial slash. A greenish beam of spiritual energy sliced off half the heads of those that had just tried to kill her. Though effective, Lin Zi was exhausted, hovering in midair and gasping for breath. Even one transcendent fighter, equal to them in rank, could barely handle a single monster. Yet she'd been fighting not 3 or 4 at a time, but even more than that. It was draining. At first, she'd fought inside the city, then realized that was hopeless and deliberately lured them outside so she could handle them alone. Now she barely had the strength to run. All she could do was use what little energy she had left to keep these creatures busy, giving the city's people time to flee. That's why, when a giant monster suddenly lunged from behind with its jaws wide open, Lin Zi sensed the killing intent behind her and could only snap around in horror, a single thought ringing in her head. "Am I going to die here?" Out of nowhere, from behind, a massive column of spiritual energy blasted right into the monster's armpit, making it yelp and topple backward. Its huge body smashed down on the row of buildings behind it. From this angle, it looked like a mutated spiky sea cucumber, and once flipped over, it struggled to right itself. The hit didn't kill it, but it lay there, pinned in the rubble and not moving. The spines remained frozen in place for a long moment, freeing Lin Zi from danger. But this wasn't a time to rejoice. Any power not from humanity made her uneasy. She whirled around to see where that spiritual light had come from. Why did it feel like a beam descending straight from the heavens? Indeed, descending from above was a white jade elephant, a transcendent rank 3 beast cloaked in a thin layer of spiritual energy. It gazed down at the human girl, looking regal and otherworldly. Lindsay's face went pale. She realized that beam of spiritual power had come from it. Did this elephant just drop out of the sky through the clouds? White jade raised its trunk high toward the sky, along with its gleaming white tusks, and let out a bellow that echoed to the four corners. It then condensed spiritual energy into a dazzling orb that lit up the entire area. The orb trailed long streaks of light, as if drawing power from the air, growing bigger and bigger. The sea cucumber's blood-red eyes stared back at its opponent without fear, even though that same move had just knocked it down earlier. Hurling the glowing orb at the sea cucumber, White Jade transformed it into a massive spiritual cudgel smashing down. The ocean beast didn't panic or flee. It just stared blankly at the oncoming mass of power. There was no punch like before, only a furious blaze sweeping across the landscape like fire over dry grass, making it hard to see the sea cucumber within. Wherever that spiritual energy swept, the seawater surged and instantly evaporated. When it passed, steam and smoke blurred the view. Buildings turned to ash, and visibility was nearly zero. Still, the sea cucumber's piercing eyes shone through. White Jade knew it wouldn't be that easy. Its instincts had been right when it felt uneasy back in the Celestial Mountains. These creatures from the sea were truly a nightmare to deal with. Taking advantage of their showdown, Lindsay settled on a collapsed rooftop not too far away. Without that elephant's intervention, she'd likely have died back there. Still breathing heavily, gulping down great draughts of air, she realized she was done for now. All she could do was watch how this played out and then figure out her next move because she was completely spent. Oh, it's a rank 3 mutated white elephant. Shaoling's sudden appearance behind the girl broke the silence with a random remark. Her tone was flat, neither happy nor impressed, but it startled Lindsay. Your linger? Before Shaoling could answer, a squad of muscular super beings crept up from behind, greeting her softly. We never thought you'd come this time, too. Glancing at the devastated scene, their leader continued. So far, 27 coastal cities have been invaded by these sea beasts. 5 of them are completely in ruins. Every place with a super being present fought desperately to reclaim every inch of land. Even from afar, one could see enormous plumes of dust where battles raged. Over a dozen cities were still resisting, but seeing the current situation, everyone knew it was only a matter of time before they all fell. Even so, super beings couldn't just give up. All they could do was delay the monster's advance. Gazing at the grim landscape, who wouldn't recall the time Euclair landed in Australia when the world trembled as if the end had come? Seeing this buck-toothed sea cucumber now made them feel even more hopeless. Compared to that last time, this truly looked like doomsday, because unlike the solitary Euclair, this oceanic beast king had reached peak rank 3 and brought an entire army. Shaoling paid no attention to the super beings behind her. She had always acted quietly and was far colder than most who preferred group fights. Say what you want. I'm going in. The other shouted anxiously. Wait. With our current strength, going in is suicide. We should save our strength and wait for the Federation's final decision. Outside Earth, the nation is preparing to fire a spiritual energy orbital cannon. If it succeeds, this crisis might be resolved quickly. Shaoling impatiently turned to glare at him, pointing forward. The people over there can't wait. Without further argument, she spread her wings and sped off across the water. Her passing split the surface into rippling trails. The super beings, who could only jump a bit higher than normal humans, were amazed by her wings of spiritual energy. None of them could stop her, because you had to be rank 3 or above in the transcendent class to freely fly. Who would have thought that this aloof, stern-faced woman was already rank 3? Without a word, Shaoling soared straight into enemy territory. A crowd of grotesque fish waited hungrily. The moment they spotted her, they lunged, jaws gaping to tear her apart. Shaoling let out a fierce cry, conjured blazing butterfly-like flames in her hands. First, they wrapped around her as a shield, then she flung them outward toward the monsters, incinerating them as if wiping them from existence. The super beings left behind only saw a cloud of mist rise as seawater evaporated. They gasped in surprise at Shaoling's power, capable of vaporizing seawater. Seizing the moment when the small fry were all destroyed and the view obscured, Shaoling skimmed swiftly across the water's surface, aiming straight for the massive mutated sea cucumber that was beginning to get back on its feet amid the ruins. She shouted angrily, "Is tearing things up fun for you, huh?" Shaoling rammed her entire body into the creature. She might have looked small, but the force was tremendous, knocking it backward with a thunderous roar. Before it could grab her, Shaoling had already leapt back. Instantly, a purple spiritual energy enveloped her, and she screamed, "Violet Flame Torment!" The violet flames unfurled like a ribbon around the creature's neck, strangling and scorching it. The monster roared in pain. Shaoling didn't let go until she was absolutely out of strength. The violet flames raised a haze of steam, and for a moment there was silence, making her think maybe it was finally over. Unexpectedly, the sea cucumber wasn't dead. It burst from the cloud of steam with its jaws wide open, performing a terrifying cosmic void move aimed right at Shaoling. She gritted her teeth in frustration. The creature was too big, its body too massive for her current violet flames. Unsure what to do, White Jade suddenly slammed into the monster's jaw from the side, sending it crashing down again. The danger eased for the moment. It glanced at Shaoling, asking with concern, "Are you okay?" Irritated, she didn't answer and pressed him. "Who are you? Just who the hell are you?" White Jade replied, "I'll explain later. Just know I'm not your enemy." Suddenly, a strange phenomenon appeared before them. The smoke and the space ahead twisted as if sucked by a giant whirlpool, bunching up like cotton. Without warning, a massive column of spiritual energy shot out from behind it. From afar, it looked like the monster, having just gotten back up, was striking again immediately. White Jade's eyes widened. Not good. The beam was huge, and if it passed through the elephant or Shaoling, they'd both be done for. Its range ballooned outward like a glowing sphere swallowing everything around it. White Jade, emerging from the smoke with scratches on its body, exclaimed in shock, "Why is this sea beast using my moves?" Shaoling, sheltered behind a spiritual energy sphere, hadn't been hit. She could see clearly now, and was pale with disbelief. The monster's shape wasn't that of a sea cucumber anymore. Why did its form now look just like his? On that prickly face, the long elephant trunk and the pair of tusks jutting out made it look just like an old elephant wandering down from the hell. Its tiny, blood-red eyes still brimmed with hostility. Even more surprising was that the purple flames Shaoling had just hurled at it were now burning brightly on the beast's neck, like some sort of bizarre ornament. Shaoling had never seen anything like this before. In confusion, she exclaimed to White Jade, "My flames! They're on its body!" What a terrifying ability, White Jade quickly observed. This creature could absorb attacks from others and make them its own. If that's the case, the stronger the attack, the more advantageous it'll be for it, the elephant muttered to itself, alarmed. The hybrid creature let out a defiant roar. Its trunk, under which lay a mouthful of jagged teeth, emitted a sound that was a grotesque imitation of an elephant's call. Elsewhere, ocean waves surged violently, crashing into the city. Although they arrived later than most of the coastal cities, the chaos was just as intense. People, unable to evacuate in time, ran for their lives, trying to escape the clutches of the sea beasts. These creatures functioned perfectly well outside water, and their sheer numbers overwhelmed the fleeing masses. With razor-sharp teeth, they bit into anyone in their path. Amid screams and cries of despair, voices could be heard wailing, "Where's my child? Has anyone seen my child?" Yet, in such a dire situation, no one had the luxury to worry about others. It was every man for himself, pushing and shoving in a desperate bid for survival. A hideous snake-like beast was about to lunge at a mother clutching her baby. She turned pale and screamed, "No, I don't want to die." But no matter how fast she ran, escape seemed impossible. But right at that moment, the beast snapped its jaws shut, recoiling as if something had grabbed it. The same fate befell other nearby sea creatures. They were snatched up into the air by shadowy figures resembling various birds and beasts. These were the misty projections of Yuzi, who was plucking them up and bringing them to himself. The weeping Willow stood tall, its gaze fixed on the approaching sea beasts. As Yuzi eyed his prey, he calculated how much spiritual energy he could gain from killing them. He paid no attention to the humans he inadvertently saved. However, in their terrified eyes, they saw the divine tree coming to their rescue. Grateful and reverent, they did not flee but instead gathered around the faintly glowing giant tree in the mist, chanting, "Divine tree, divine tree, divine tree." Surveying the scene, Yuzi noted how he had taken root and carved a direct path to this spot. Only now did he realize how fiercely the sea beasts had invaded the area. The situation ahead could only be worse. Indeed, as Yuzi predicted, the deep sea outside the city churned violently. It wasn't just an attack by sea beasts. An intense battle was raging there. The hybrid elephant-like beast bristled, launching all the spikes on its head and body. They flew with a sharp whistle, infused with spiritual energy, forming a rain of arrows that poured down relentlessly on Shaoling, who was struggling within her protective sphere. Unlike Shaoling, White Jade couldn't create a shield. It charged headlong toward the beast, enduring the attacks as they came. Before the creature could steal any more powers, White Jade aimed to crush its skull underfoot, eliminating the threat once and for all. The beast, less agile than anticipated, couldn't evade the attack. White Jade stomped hard on its spine, roaring, "Die under my feet!" The powerful strike forced the creature to vomit a pool of green blood. But before it could recover, Shaoling condensed her purple flames into a long sword, which flashed past the beast's bloodshot eyes. Her gaze glowed with a violet hue as she brought the weapon before her, shouting, "Purple flame sword!" But just as she was about to strike, a silver streak appeared in front of the creature, seemingly ready to cleave it in two. The beast was injured, its body bleeding, but instead of retreating, it grew angrier. A mesmerizing yet dangerous blue spiritual energy radiated from its mouth. Sensing danger, Shaoling realized this wasn't an innate ability. The beast must have absorbed it from something else to create its unique attack. Her instincts proved correct. Before she could fully react, Shaoling quickly summoned her sphere to shield herself. The overwhelming force of the attack swept her backward, almost flinging her into the ocean. White Jade, enraged, opened its eyes wide and roared, "Humans!" A violet beam erupted toward the ocean, blasting one of the three combatants into the side of a nearby building. The concrete caved inward, forming a massive spherical dent. At its center was a small human figure. Smoke rose thickly from the impact site. Shaoling, battered and bruised, frowned as she glanced toward the beast. It was clearly a human spiritual weapon designed to combat these creatures, but now inadvertently affecting her as well. White Jade turned to her and bellowed, "Human, are you all right?" Though not dead, Shaoling was furious. Gritting her teeth, she wondered, is there really no way to kill this monster? Her body still pinned to the wall, Shaoling saw the grotesque hybrid emerge from the smoke, unscathed. Furious, she flew closer to assess the situation. Behind her, White Jade spoke grimly, "That's no ordinary sea beast." "Obviously," she replied. "What kind of sea beast grows tusks?" But White Jade was referring to something far more significant. Staring intently at the creature, it declared, "That's one of the 7 kings of the unified Deep Sua, one of the masterminds behind this invasion." No wonder it was so resilient. Emerging from the haze, the creature's eyes burned with hatred as it fixated on its target. It let out a thunderous roar, but didn't advance. Instead, it unleashed another rain of spikes, this time aimed directly at White Jade. The elephant swung its trunk furiously, deflecting the projectiles to avoid further damage. Determined to end this, White Jade charged forward again. Its body radiated a fiery orange-red spiritual energy as it prepared to execute its ultimate move, Sky Piercer. Focusing all its energy into its 4 legs, White Jade stomped with all its might onto the beast's back, determined to drive it straight into the ground. The impact rippled like a thunderclap, sending a massive column of water skyward and demolishing nearby buildings. The once sturdy structures were reduced to rubble, their walls riddled with cracks or crumbling entirely. Even untouched areas buckled under the pressure, collapsing completely. Shaoling clenched her teeth in disbelief. She had never imagined an attack so powerful it could tear through space itself. The spot where White Jade had struck now resembled a massive whirlpool, swallowing everything above it. She cautiously approached, asking, "Is it over? Did you finish it?" White Jade, slightly more cheerful, replied, "No matter how tough it is, it can't survive this." But before they could relax, the sea roared once more. A surge of purple energy shot upward, and before White Jade could react, the beast's murderous gaze locked onto it. "Sky! Piercing!" the beast roared. White Jade froze in terror, unable to flee. Its shock left it rooted to the spot, allowing the hybrid's elephant-like legs to stomp down on its back and head. The retaliatory strike mirrored the earlier devastation, with wind and waves tearing through the area. The beast's power ripped through space again, distorting everything above it. Under the crushing weight, White Jade's body turned into a bloody pulp. Victorious, the sea beast roared madly, showcasing its dominance with its terrifying strength. Shaoling hovered above, too frightened to make a move. Below her, White Jade lay motionless, utterly defeated. Even if it survived, its pride was shattered. The atmosphere around Shaoling shifted dramatically, with snow beginning to fall lightly under the now gray skies. But more importantly, the creature responsible for all this destruction stood firm. Irritated, Shaoling shouted, "What the hell are you? Invincible or something? Even this didn't kill you?" The beast, as if responding to her question, suddenly went berserk. Its face twisted in fury as it spat out fragmented words. "The land belongs to the great sea." So it was a powerful beast, but clearly not had full ability of speak. Still, Its overwhelming aura was undeniable. Each breath it exhaled left Shaoling completely speechless. The beast, as if responding to her words, grew even more enraged. Its face twisted in fury as it declared, "Everything belongs to the great sea. Those who resist must die." With that, it reared onto its hind legs, trumpeting like an elephant, and unleashed another sky piercer, aiming to crush the human girl beneath it. Shaoling didn't move, her gaze fixed on the creature. Was it because she knew she couldn't escape and had simply frozen in place? Once again, the sea reacted violently, sending waves crashing higher than the surrounding buildings. However, it seemed the beast didn't need to expend as much spiritual energy against a mere human this time. There were no space-tearing lightning bolts like before. Suddenly, Shaoling's violet eyes caught something unusual. The beast's massive feet should have landed on her by now, yet beneath them was a giant tree root, bearing the full brunt of the attack. The root emitted a golden aura, shielding itself from the sky piercer. What's more, it remained unscathed, contrary to the beast's expectations. Shaoling, narrowly escaping death, looked around in astonishment. She couldn't believe how her master's roots had crept so close without anyone noticing. Standing tall before the monstrous creature was Yu Ziyu. His massive trunk loomed over the ruins, firm and unyielding. The sea beast, having lost its prey, glared at him, bellowing a roar of defiance that shook the air. It was ready to challenge anything that dared cross its path. Yu Ziyu observed the creature with a mix of curiosity and disdain. "So you must be one of the kings of the deep sea. Truly a hideous sight beyond imagination." Being mocked for its appearance during battle, the sea beast roared in fury. It shifted tactics, determined to bring down the willow tree. Raising its legs, it leaped toward Yu Ziyu, its gaping maw roaring with rage. From Yu Ziyu's perspective, the beast resembled nothing more than a giant cockroach about to take flight. Spiritual energy radiated from its legs, and it unleashed a more powerful version of Sky Piercer. Shaoling immediately recognized the attack and shouted in panic, "Master, be careful. That move can tear through space." "All right, let's see it," Yu Ziyu muttered, furrowing his brow. Summoning his strength, he merged two of his roots into a shield, directly clashing with the beast's descending legs. The creature's thunderous spiritual energy struck Yu Ziyu, sending shockwaves that toppled buildings and churned the sea into a roaring tempest. The sheer force of the attack caused Shaoling to be swept away, only to be caught mid-air by a white trunk. The sudden jolt was rough, but she was unharmed. Startled, Shaoling turned to see that it was White Jade who had saved her. She had thought the elephant was dead, but it had quickly hidden itself to avoid the brunt of the earlier attack and seized the chance to rescue her. White Jade was drenched in sweat, thinking, "This king of sea beasts not only stole my technique, but amplified its power several times over. Even so, it couldn't inflict any real damage on the newcomer." The spiritual energy radiating from the willow was simply too strong. Yu Ziyu's roots, untouched by any enhancements, had easily withstood the beast's fake sky piercer. Through his roots, he observed the creature and spoke in a low voice. "So that's it? I figured you out." His gaze seemed to pierce right through the beast, driving it into a frenzy. Enraged that its attack had failed, the sea beast stomped furiously on the roots again, determined to try once more. This time, it poured all its spiritual energy into its legs. Each stomp distorted the space around them, creating explosions that rocked the willow's base. The howling wind and chaotic energy grew even more intense. Such noisy, reckless combat was not Yu Ziyu's style. He quickly extended a root, piercing straight through the beast's abdomen. Blood sprayed in all directions as the creature let out a howl of agony. Its eyes locked onto the willow, filled with hatred and disbelief at how easily it had been skewered. Yu Ziyu, unwilling to let it go, drove his root deeper into the creature's flesh, his voice booming. "Is this all you've got? Just a stolen technique and nothing more? Fine. Then he'd show it a technique that couldn't be stolen, one that relied purely on physics. The roots coiled tightly around the beast. From head to toe, it was restrained, leaving only its mouth free to howl in agony. Sparks of lightning crackled from its body, a result of the immense pressure as the roots twisted tighter and tighter. Not wanting this creature to disturb the seas any longer, Yu Ziyu effortlessly lifted the giant elephant-like beast into the air with just 4 of his roots. His gaze sharp and commanding, he declared, "Thunderstrike." With a booming voice, he added, "If you enjoy using lightning so much, let me show you what a real thunderbolt feels like." From the skies, an enormous bolt of lightning crashed down on the sea beast. The sheer force of Yu Ziyu's spiritual power caused the heavens and earth to tremble. Could this deep-sea monster survive such a devastating attack?